Welcome to the Refs Need Love To podcast, a show that gives you a real, raw, and behind-the-scenes view of one of the hardest jobs on the pitch, the referee. I'm your host, David Gerson, a grassroots referee with over 8 years of experience and over 1,000 matches under my belt. You can find me at refsneedlove2.com and on TikTok under the same name. This week, I'm recording from Grand Rapids, Michigan at the National Association of Women's Gymnastics Judges Symposium. That's right, not soccer referees, women's gymnastics judges. It was eye-opening and fun, and I'm looking forward to telling you more about it. NAWGJ. Now, I had never heard that acronym before. I had received a call from the president of this organization asking me to come speak at their symposium, which happens every 4 years. They were looking for a speaker who could address abuse of officials, both abuse that might be having in person, so verbal abuse or indirect abuse, and even some physical aggression and threats, and also online. And kind of, that's my gig. I talk about that stuff. And I'm very passionate about the subject. So I wanted to participate. And as a matter of fact, you guys probably don't know that my daughter was a competitive gymnast. And then after that, she did competitive diving and competitive cheer. But my wife was a gymnast and a cheerleader. And she is a high school cheer and gymnastics judge for the past 4 years. So she's got like 5 gigs, but those are 2 of her gigs, and she's very passionate about it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'd love to come talk to you guys. Women's gymnastics here in the United States is actually really blown up over the past few years in particular. The popularity of a few particular women's gymnasts on TikTok at big schools like UCLA and LSU, none more so than Olivia Dunn from LSU. The girl has 7.6 million followers. That's right, she's a collegiate gymnast. I mean, I would tell you, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I probably could not name a single collegiate gymnast. And now I probably know about 5 or 6 of them just from their social media videos that have been, sent around. I mean, these unbelievably strong and talented athletes. Now they have platforms and to show off. I mean, these ladies by their nature are performers, and now they have these platforms with Instagram and TikTok to get their name and likeness out. And I mean, this girl in particular, Olivia, has blown up. Again, 7.6 million followers. Her videos have 391 million likes on TikTok alone. Forget about all of her other profiles or all the people who do videos about her. Okay, that's just on her own channel. To give you some idea of how big she is, she has recently become a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. Okay, Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. That's how big this girl has become. Oh, and by the way, she's still competing in NCAA gymnastics. So that's really cool. It's wonderful for the sport, and it's bringing more people into the sport. But when you do that, you're going to bring in the trolls and the haters as well. Crowds are getting bigger. Crowds are getting more rowdy. Spectators are getting more verbal towards judges. The judges have had numerous incidents where they have been tracked down on the internet and they're receiving nasty messages. Coaches are getting more exposure and more of a profile online as well. They are giving them a great deal of grief. And this is, throughout gymnastics. There's things going on. I mean, yes, you could be a soccer mom on Saturday, and then on Sunday you're at a gymnastics meet, and all of a sudden, sometimes those same behaviors carry over to a gymnastics meet. And I have to tell you, I mean, this is not really, or has not historically been, a really big thing at gymnastics. The coaches are really never supposed to speak directly to judges during a gymnastics meet. Generally, I mean, the parents are supposed to be very quiet. I mean, girls are competing. You're supposed to be, really quiet and not yelling things out to distract anyone on the floor. It's generally been a very respectful environment. But I got to tell you, it's starting to change. I mean, there was a speaker who came to talk about just the general uncivility, I think that's the word, on the internet, but also just the general uncivility that you'd even find now at gymnastics or at soccer or at basketball or hockey, you name it. It's all out there. Very serious, has major ramifications. There's also the struggle between judges. And this is more, I think, potentially a generational thing where there are many judges who have judged events for a very long time, 25, 30, even more than 35 years as a judge. And you've got all of these younger judges who want to come up in the ranks and judge at higher and higher levels. And there's a friction there. So in our world, in soccer, for those who are soccer officials listening to this podcast, we're kind of limited by age. So there's only so long you can do the elite levels just due to fitness. And then we have to retire or start working our way back and let the young guns come in, the young men and women who want to move on up to that regional, national, and pro level. So there's always constant influx of new blood. In gymnastics, not really a thing. You can judge well into your 70s. And there are numerous people do it. And I'm very qualified to do that. But that also leads to some struggle and some conflict between judges as well. So I was asked to come in and talk about how they might address these issues, both in person and on social media. And I'm going to share some of those insights here on the podcast today. I'm going to kind of go through my presentation, and I hope you find it valuable. But before I do that, can I just say how wonderful it was being here? Yes, they had sessions on scoring and some technical factors of being a judge, but they also had sessions on leadership. Leadership, man, and how to be a better leader on the field and be a better leader with your fellow referees, if you're working with junior referees that might be on the meet with you. They had a session on financial and tax information for independent contractors, because they're all independent contractors, just like in soccer. They had numerous networking events. They had awards to recognize, the best of the best. They're major contributors, lifetime achievement, you name it. I mean, they were dancing, they were having fun. The love and the support in the room was palpable, truly palpable. It was special. Now, I know that our best referees in soccer, the ones who go to regionals and President's Cup and national events, get a taste of that, but it is literally the 0.1% of refs in this country. Who represents people like me? Who represents the rest of us? The grassroots officials, who, by the way, all we are known as is a grassroots ref. Whether you've been working for 10 years or you've been working for 2 years, there are no levels. There's no status or anything like that with all the 1,000+ matches that I've put in. I'm just a grassroots ref. Who is there looking out for me? Who's there looking out for you? In gymnastics, women's gymnastics, they've got an organization. In basketball, they've got an organization. Numerous organizations have national organizations that are looking out for them. What about for us? Who represents us? Let me just say that today was a pivotal moment in my life, and I think I may have found my calling. It's the classic, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? But I think I know what I've got to do in the next 5 to 10 years. All right. So now for my presentation. I hope you enjoy it and find some of the content useful. It was very useful. I mean, it was a lot of fun to put together. So the title, of course, is Judges Need Love Too. And in the evening before my presentation, I was so thrilled that I had the opportunity, went down. I got there at they were ending an event, and I went down to the bar in the hotel after the event, and I just went kind of table to table and introduced myself and said, hey, does anyone have any experiences that they would like to share? Anything that they want to, tell me about any situations that they've run into with spectators or coaches or even other officials at the meets. And I have to tell you, I mean, shocking stuff. Now, as a soccer ref, I'm used to awful stories, but things like, trying to leave the facility and a grandma grabbing this judge by the arm, spinning them around and cornering them, asking her why her daughter got such a low score. Someone sitting in the bleachers up above the judge's table and pouring a drink down on top of a judge's head. Parents, of course, booing a bad score, a parent looking up a judge's name because in the NCAA, they publish the names of the referees on the score sheet and then sending them direct messages on Facebook Messenger about a score, being bullied by coaches, especially experienced coaches against new judges. This one was just really awful, in particular on a number of different levels. A woman followed a judge out to the parking lot. So one of the gymnastics judges, this woman follows her out to the parking lot and starts yelling at her, scolding her, telling her that the parent, is a medical professional. And if they saw that judge injured on the side of the road, they would not stop to help them due to the low score that they gave their daughter. I mean, like, what? Are you insane? What? Come on. So they need love too, no doubt. But as we know, adults are out of control at youth sports. It doesn't matter if it's soccer. It doesn't matter if it's football. It doesn't matter if it's hockey. All sports. And to think that it's limited to just verbal abuse is wrong. There are physical assaults that happen all the time in all sports, and people even wind up getting killed. It is a thing, and it's everything. It's hockey, football, basketball. I'm sure it happens in tennis. I don't know the tennis world, but I can just kind of picture it, can't you? But it's also happening here in gymnastics as well. I mean, this sport is growing. It is getting more exposure. It is only a matter of time. So the new spectators who come in, they're bringing their habits from other sport events that they attend, and it is starting to cause some serious issues, and it's only going to grow. It's not going to lessen. So it's from the spectators, it's from the coaches, it's from the competitors. And again, you can't hide, because if they don't say something to you at the actual event, well, then it's going to happen on social media. And I mean, they'll name you, they'll shame you, they'll find your face, they'll find where you live, and people get sent death threats. It is awful. Now, I've quoted some of these statistics before, but it bears repeating. That the National Association of Sports Officials did a survey, and they find that 70 to 80% of officials quit in the first 3 years. And it was so funny. I asked the group while I was there, I said, how long does it take to get good as a gymnastics judge? They all start laughing because, like I know, like you know, if you're a soccer referee out there, I mean, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to be a good, confident referee. I mean, in those first couple of years, you barely even know what you're doing. I mean, is that a foul? Is that not a foul? Why is that a foul? I don't know. And then you've got all these coaches who know, less, maybe more than you do, but they're yelling about every single thing. It takes a long time. So when you lose so many officials in the first 3 years, it's just a perpetuating, problem that you're constantly getting new people in who don't feel confident, who don't know the rules or the laws of the game, and it really becomes an issue, big time issue. 93.7% of match officials have experienced some type of verbal abuse. That was quite an eye-opening number that I got out of some of the research as well. 60% say their top reason for quitting is verbal abuse from parents and fans. 50% say their top reason for quitting is verbal abuse from coaches. So the spectators can be sometimes even nastier than the coaches. 40% say that their mental health has been negatively affected. I mean, seriously, causing depression, causing anxiety. And this was really, I found this so fascinating. It was just a little aside, but they asked, what are the things that referees and officials and judges want most? And the top thing desired, safety. Safety. I mean, talk about a really low bar. I just want to be safe. I want to be able to show up, do my job, do my officiating to the best of my ability, and be able to get home to my family and friends safely and not have some stalker following me out to the car and potentially threatening my safety. How about that? I find that to be really fascinating. So, of course, I had to give these folks a little bit of a background on me. Again, how did Refs Need Love to begin? As you know, I started because my son Jacob got interested in being a ref at 10 years old. That's right. He started at 10 years old, which is, again, absolutely bananas when you think about it, that he was so young when he started as a referee on the field, and even at 12 years old, starting to center matches, being the main official in the match and having to deal with coaches and players who were almost the same age. It was an unbelievable experience, and we had a lot of fun reffing together. We've reffed hundreds of matches together, and I love him dearly, and I love the experience that we shared dearly. But that 8 years on the pitch kind of prepared me to, really understand the stresses that are upon officials, and that's how this channel kind of got started. But at this event, I also wanted them to know that my daughter was a competitive gymnast and competed it all the way up to level 7. And then she did competitive diving, competitive cheer. And my wife is now a competitive, or a high school gymnastics and competitive cheer judge. So she's now going into her 5th year, which is really cool. But the channel began because it was kind of a funny thing, just a random aside. I posted a video on TikTok, and my wife kind of doing some assistant referee mechanics with her flag for, she was in my referee uniform for a movie, and that kind of went viral. And then I was like, oh, that's funny. Let's do some more of this. And so then I started doing some other funny videos, and they were like referee comebacks, things that I hear all the time on the field, and what I would say back, like in my inner monologue that I wish I could say in person, and did a lot of videos on laws of the game and trying to recruit people to be a referee. But very early on in the channel, some of my OG, TikTok followers out there will know that I get a lot of questions and a lot of feedback from people just asking, how do they deal, usually young refs, how do they deal with the abuse that they're receiving from coaches or from spectators or from players? I'm people being racially abused, just how do you deal with those dynamics, both on the pitch and then afterwards? How do you deal with it mentally and keep on going, keep coming back? Bringing to light issues of referee assaults that are happening out there that get, very, very little coverage in the mainstream media, because it hurts. It has lasting impacts, and our families and friends generally can't relate to the pressure and the types of abuse that we receive. I mean, they think, oh, you're a judge at gymnastics or soccer, what's the big deal? It's like, if you only knew. I mean, these organizations, again, U.S. soccer or U.S. youth soccer, or even, the National Association for Women's Gymnastics Judges, I mean, they're not counseling organizations. They're certifying organizations for the most part. They do some education, but they're not counselors. We are independent contractors. So there's very little support and understanding and empathy for the type of abuse and pressure that we receive. I mean, I asked the audience, how many of you have had a sleepless night due to something that someone has said to you, at an event, some critique or some abuse or insult? And pretty much every single person in the room raised their hand. I mean, every single person. I mean, I've probably reffed, 300, 400 great matches. I can't remember a single one. But ask me about the matches where I've received the worst abuse, and I remember them all. It sticks with you. It's a trauma you cannot shake. And there's some evolutionary science behind it. Again, the reason why our brain does that is so we remember things that have caused us pain, so we don't do those things again in the future. Don't eat this plant, it makes you sick. Don't walk through this area because there's a big hole there and you don't break your ankle and you survive. So that's why the brain is wired right that. But as a referee, it's really problematic, because all of the bad situations, all the times when you think you made a mistake, all the times when you've received abuse, those are the things that stick in your mind and you can't shake, and you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. It's a real problem. So Refs Need Love Too is kind of what came from that, just the whole idea of the brand and the idea and what it was about. And it was about not just obviously for soccer referees, but it was about for all officials of sports. Because again, I think there's very little love for the ref or the official or the judge out there. And I came up with 4 kind of tenets of the brand that I have in Latin underneath my logo. Animo is the first one, and that is Latin for courage, because I think just the fact that you are going to put that uniform on and go out there and make those tough calls, you are a courageous person. That makes a great referee. You have to have courage. My high school yearbook quote, I kid you not, this is not a joke. My high school yearbook quote is, "It is better to stand alone for the right reasons than be together for the wrong." It is better to stand alone for the right reasons than be together for the wrong. That's my high school yearbook quote. And I've always been that person. I have always been that one who wants to stand up and say when something is wrong, morally wrong, ethically wrong. It's, I was the president of my rugby team. I was always in student, body organizations and things of that nature as president or vice president or something like that. I've always been a leader in every job I have. That's kind of my thing. I want to be that person at the point of the spear, not for the recognition, but to fight for my people and fight for what is right. So what I went over next is just, why do people abuse officials, trying to get understanding of different types of abuse, and then what actions to take. So first off, I went over, why do people do it? Why do people abuse referees? Now, a lot of it is because they've never walked a mile in our shoes. 99.99% have never been officials or refs. It's the great Mark Twain quote, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness." And many of our people need it sorely. And that's the quote. And it's all about, once you've traveled to, say, China, it's really hard to have ill feelings towards people from China because you know them. You've worked with them. They're friends. They love to be loved, and they have friendships, and they love to enjoy great food and just beautiful sunsets and everything. And I've been to Mexico many times, and you look on the news about Mexico, and it's all drug lords and crime. It's like, my gosh, man. I mean, the Mexican people are beautiful people. They're just like us. They just happen to live a little south of our border. But they're wonderful people and have gorgeous cities and, thriving economies. It's just fantastic. So, most people have never traveled in a referee's shoes or judge's shoes. So they don't understand. Also, they model behavior they see on TV. So they watch professional matches of soccer or football or basketball, and they see people screaming at officials, and they listen to commentators who are highly critical of officials, refs, and judges. And so they do the same thing when they're in the stands or at an event. The refs and judges often dehumanized. I find it funny that there's a nonprofit out there called Officially Human. Like, we actually need reminding that referees and judges and officials and umpires are human. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's pretty funny. I think sometimes when people come to an event, they think it's the price of admission. I've spent $40 or $400 for my ticket to be here, so it's my right to be able to yell at the referee. That's part of my fun. That's part of my release, that I can vent and yell at them, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it. There's minimal consequences for it, especially at an NCAA or professional event, for spectators, for yelling things at officials. There's no accountability. There's a herd mentality. So everyone's, pulling in a certain direction and feels that the referee is an adversary. Of course, and I mentioned this general lack of understanding. I mean, again, 99.99% of spectators and even a lot of coaches have never read the rule book of the sport that they're working in, or they have an understanding when they were a competitor 10 years ago, and they think that is the rule, although it's probably changed 4 or 5 times since they've been competing. Some of the things that I hear from spectators or coaches is that they're, quote unquote, keeping the official honest by, dissenting or publicly making statements. They're fighting for their team or their player, or the one that really has driven me a little nuts, and I keep thinking about. I had an incident on TikTok this week where there was a spectator at a baseball game, a little league baseball game, was screaming at the umpires. Eventually, got kicked out, and as he's walking down the stairs and continuing to scream at the umpires, winds up tripping and I believe severely messing up a leg. And I didn't know it at the time, but I posted a video of it, and I was just like, hey, and I don't wish ill will, but, try and put positivity and love out of the world. You'll generally get that back. When you put out, hate and anger, generally, karma is a thing and you'll get it back, or maybe you'll break an ankle. And so the next day, the daughter of the person who had fallen down those stairs wrote me and asked me to take the video down, and did it pretty nicely. But, admits, hey, he messed up, but, he's a loving father and he was trying to defend his son. And I'm like, defend his son. Now, I didn't get snarky back at her. I just said, hey, I don't want to add to his pain and suffering. I'll take the video down. But if he wants to post a video of an apology to the umpires he was yelling at, happy to post that on my channel. Didn't hear anything back. But the thing of defend his son, I was like, what is that? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's one thing if the umpires were running around the field with baseball bats chasing his son. By all means, defend your son. But if your son was the recipient of the call went against your son that you don't agree with, how do you think, what's the appropriate response to that? Is it screaming your head off from the stands as a spectator sitting 100 feet away, 100 feet further away than the umpire was, whether it was a ball or a strike or a balk or someone was called out or safe or whatever it is? I mean, what do you think is the best way what's the best behavior you should model for your son? Do you think you should, maybe accept it? And when you get in the car after the game, say, sometimes there's going to be things in life that don't go your way. It's about how you respond to it. That would probably be a good lesson. But instead, this person defended his son by acting like an absolute lunatic, screaming at the top of his lungs at these officials who are getting paid less than minimum wage to, ref this little league baseball game, at the love of, for the love of the game in, whatever ridiculous 90 or 100 degree heat, wearing, a chest protector and shirt and pants out there. Oh, can't even imagine that. That is not defending your son. Okay, that is making the spectacle all about you and teaching, all of the kids on that baseball diamond how to not react, to adversity. Absolutely a horrible example. So the defend your son thing really rubs me the wrong way. So what are the types of abuse that officials receive? Certainly we know about direct verbal, so people yelling things at someone, but there's also indirect verbal and indirect aggression. And this is more common for women, at least the science says. Indirect aggression would be spreading false rumors about people, gossiping, excluding people from a social group, making insinuations without direct accusation, criticizing others' appearance, personality. I mean, have you ever had that thing where someone walks by and they say something nasty about you and you're like, excuse me? And they're like, oh, I wasn't talking about you. Like, please, I know you were talking about me. Or they're talking about officials on social media or being very critical and nasty about them. Again, it's a thing. So, there's obviously threats to people's physical safety and physical abuse. So I walked through for gymnast judges. They don't necessarily have the same ask, tell, dismiss model that we do. They actually cannot dismiss a coach from a match because of safety reasons, because the coach has to be there to be able to spot. That spotting is when you're there on the competition match, watching them do uneven bars or beam or vault or whatever to make sure that they land safely. So there's a safety thing. So they can give a yellow card to a coach, but they can't actually dismiss them. So if someone gets 2 yellow cards, a team can actually get points deduction. So what I walked through with them was different types of like verbal dissent, if you will. I know we're familiar with the word dissent in soccer. It's not really used in gymnastics, but different types of things that people say and what can just let water roll off our back and what things do we need to actually address. So the first one, of course, is outbursts of emotion. With outbursts of emotion, okay, that's the kind of stuff we just need to let go. When someone just blurts out loud, "Oh my gosh," or "No freaking way," or "That's awful," or "Oh my," the boo, or whatever, just like real quick, or like, "Are you kidding?" Like things like that just come out and then it goes away. Okay. That is what I call an outburst of emotion. Everyone does it. You see it, from the competitors, you see it from spectators, you see it from coaches. It happens as long as they don't cross the line and just like continue and over and over and over and over again. We need to let that go. It's common when people are passionate. You just have to expect that when there's some adversity, not only are you going to see it play out in their body language, but it's also going to come out of their head. They're going to think out loud and say something. Need to let the outbursts of emotion go. When we need to start getting engaged and involved and active in addressing behavior is when it becomes personal, public, and persistent dissent. Okay. At that point, we have to take action, because if we permit it, then we accept it, and it's going to happen more. So we have to address it. And sometimes you'll hear people say, "Well, I got a thick skin, so it doesn't, affect me." It's like, well, you're really setting up your fellow officials, for a really toxic environment next time. Not everyone has the same thick skin, and, it feeds on itself and it builds. So it's a serious, serious problem. So you got to pay it forward and help out your other officials. And I can see games just getting completely out of hand just when crowds start getting outrageously rowdy, or coaches and spectators, and the credibility of the official is gone because they allow that type of dissent to continue throughout an entire match or a meet. So things like, when they yell at a judge or an official, "That's terrible. You don't know what you're doing." So attacking your credibility, things like that. That's where, and it's just like over and over again on every single call, on every single score, they're saying something, they're making some comments. It's very, very public. It's unprofessional. At that point, we need to go up and address them. So again, the words we would say is, again, we'd give a warning first, if it's not something truly awful, and we'd say, "Coach, you're engaging in public dissent. Please stop right now, or there will be consequences." It could be something simple. "Coach, I'm giving you a warning. Cut it out. Too much. Unless then there will be consequences." So there's just something simple like that. If it's ready for an actual caution or a yellow card, "Coach, you're engaging in public dissent. I've given you a warning. I am now giving you a caution. Eliminate the behavior, or there will be further consequences." And that's just what I say. I don't engage in argument. If someone's really upset about something, I am going to try and de-escalate. That's something that I talked about, with the judges that were there. Again, if someone's extremely upset about a call and it is kind of questionable, or maybe I saw something and they obviously saw something different, I'm going to try and de-escalate first, because I want to make sure that they know that I care. I think one of my favorite sayings is, "People don't care what you know until they know that you care." So I'm not going to try and belittle them, insult them, or embarrass them. Imagine yourself the coach. You're there and you're upset about a call, and now the ref comes over and yells at you in front of all of your competitors and all of the parents and spectators and the other coaches. How do you think you're going to feel about that? Do you think you're going to calm down? Do you think you're going to get a heck of a lot more angry? No one likes being humiliated. So for me, I may walk over and be like, "Coach, I appreciate that you are, upset. Help me understand what's going on. What did you see?" And allow them to just say, "Hey, I saw this, it's a red card. He ran in, he hit him like this." And I've had that situation happen. And be like, "Coach, totally appreciate that. Here's what I saw." And I would go through the laws of the game. What you're asking for is serious foul play. I would have to judge that there was, excessive force or brutality. "Coach, there was no studs up. I didn't have, anything where I thought someone throw an elbow or, really overly aggressively came into that challenge. What I saw is they were trying to hold up. Yes, it was a heavy collision, but it was more of a reckless challenge. It wasn't serious foul play, And so I'm going with a yellow card as opposed to a red card." And they're like, and again, as long as they know that you've heard them, and you've explained your call, I think people are usually pretty cool with that. But it's just how we go about it. I don't go toe to toe. I kind of stand side to side. I use a calm tone of voice. I let them, express themselves a little bit in a professional manner, of course. And I think that's important. And sometimes there's going to be something where they see something that I just didn't see. Maybe it was behind the play. Maybe they had a different angle, whatever. But I always say, if they saw something and I didn't see it, I say, Coach, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. I can only call what I see or what my fellow assistant referees saw. I'm sorry. I didn't see it. And then generally people might be like, all right, well, you didn't see it, but at least I've expressed myself. So I try and always de-escalate every situation that I can. I use my tone of voice. I use posture. I'm not laughing it off. I'm certainly not just going over and smiling and joking around. It's like, Coach, you look really angry, like laughing at them. I mean, that would just make them even more upset. I'm going to take them seriously. I'm going to tell them, I care about them, and I want to understand, what they saw. And so that I can explain what I saw and then move on. And we're certainly not going to have an argument about it. I'm not going to waste, a ton of time over it. But generally, I want to make sure that they know that I care and I'm taking the situation seriously, because I think that's the main thing they want too, is that you've put serious consideration into your decision. So again, for us, we do ask, we tell, and then finally dismiss. Now, in judging for women's gymnastics, they don't have the ability to send a red card, but I wish they did, because if they did come at me with an MF or say, you effing, suck, or you're an effing idiot, I would hope they'd be able to give a red card. They can write a report, which is good. It's documented. But if someone's questioning my credibility publicly and loudly, asking me which one of your kids is on the other team or how much is the other team paying you or something like that, I would very happily throw that coach out, because that's highly unprofessional. As we kind of roll to the end here, I talk to them a lot about social media. People on social media are nasty. I do not find that a lot of people go onto social media have a greater understanding. Generally, social media algorithms are sophisticated and they drive someone down a certain rabbit hole. Most people who reach out to me about a call generally want their point of view backed up. They don't want me to explain why they might be mistaken. And when people exist through a keyboard alone, they lose their humanity and they act in ways they would never do face to face, man. So trollers gonna troll. Just understand that when people say things on social media, they're usually venting. They want to feel better about themselves. They want to make other people as upset as they are. Don't engage with it. It's not about you as an individual. If people are reaching out to you, they're reaching out to you as an official, as a judge. And as a judge, you need to be the bigger person and not play into that. I also tell people, if you do have a troll or a hater reach out to you on social media, first step, report them. Okay, so if they say nasty things, report it so they get kicked off the platform. Then you block that person so they can't send you any additional messages again, and then you delete. So you get rid of that so you don't have to see it again. If you engage a hater, you will add fuel to the fire. Okay. Then they know they have your attention and they're going to want to keep on going, and it's going to get worse. Thankfully, they do actually have some pretty good considerations for professional gymnastics judges regarding their online profiles. Essentially, they tell them, don't have them. Like, if you want to be a pro, don't have a social media profile. They just don't want it there. It's just too easy of a target, and there's too many ways that it go wrong. But essentially, if they do have social media, they just say, be polite, respectful, and classy, whether you're online or in person. Don't comment on other judges' performance. Just don't do it. You didn't view the event from their perspective. You have no right to make an assessment on how someone else judges. Just be respectful in that way. For me, when I'm on the pitch as a referee, we're a team, we're a crew. I never speak bad of my fellow official, on the field. And then again, on social media, I'm never criticizing an official. Even if I see something that I think might be a mistake, I always say, my gosh, we've got, 10 different camera angles at 50 frames a second or something like that. And they're on field level and it's going at game speed. I mean, it's a very different thing. So I try and give a lot of grace, and that's really important there. Some of the other things, again, is just, be aware when you post something on social media that it can be forwarded, it can be copied, it can be used against you. Even if you think you're putting it into a private group, all posts are forever. They can never be fully erased. We have seen so many people lose scholarships, their jobs, relationships, sponsorships, you name it, because of tweets or posts that came up like 10 years later. Someone found someplace, even if it was deleted, it was archived anywhere. So be very, very careful about anything you put online. I love this summary here. These are not my words, but I thought it was so cool. In a nutshell about social media, be classy, not trashy. Always do the right thing. And if in doubt, just don't say it or do it. So in summary for them, I told them, I was like, be proud. You are a select few. What you do is noble. It is difficult. It requires an unbelievable amount of study to be an elite gymnast judge, and you should enjoy every moment. You're giving back to these young ladies and women in a very special way that only you can do. Congratulations. Secondly, don't let the passion of the spectators, competitors, and coaches bring you down. Yes, there are going to be times when they are upset, but they're not upset at you personally. They're upset at a situation. Okay, so do not let it take away from you as an individual. And then third, have the fortitude to stand up for yourself and practice self-care and self-respect, and to know that when that line is crossed, that you need to take action. That the easier way sometimes is to sit there and, again, just ignore the nastiness, but know that if we ignore it, it will only continue and get worse, not only for you, but for your fellow judges and officials in the future. So in summary, judges need love too. And I even made them a really cool line of clothing. I designed a new logo for them with the judges need love too and a little gymnast on it. It's really cute. So hopefully they wind up getting some. That would be cool. But it was just absolutely wonderful. What an amazing experience. I am changed forever after spending time with these amazing men and women. I think this is a pivotal moment in my life, and I'm so glad I got to be here to experience this symposium with them. It happens once every 4 years, and who knows, maybe I'll be back in 4 more years. I hope you enjoyed today's pod. There is a reason why these organizations exist. They are extremely important for the development and standardization of the performance of these officials. I cannot even begin to describe how valuable it was for them and even for me to see what an organization like this can do. If you like the show, the pod, my content, please consider supporting me by purchasing some merch from the refsneedlove2.com store online. And again, if you're one of those gymnastic judges listening to this, please check it out. Go to the tab, Mark Gymnast, and check out your made gear. I'll probably keep it up for about 2 months or so. The pod website, everything I do has a cost beyond just my time. Purchaser from that store helped me cover the cost of doing this. I want to wish you all the best of luck on the pitch and on the mat, and I hope your next match is red card free for you refs and yellow card free for you gymnastic judges. Thank you.